Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
What's up, Delora?
Hi, Ashley.
New day, new recording. How goes it?
Great. I had a great weekend. I got a chance to go to Michigan, see my family.
Very nice.
Shout out to my dad and my mom. I love you so much. And shout out to the babies and the cousins and the aunties and uncles. It was a good time. And I like to shout out Nina from church. She goes to David's church. She is a fan from the very beginning. Like, she listened to our Tina Turner recap. Like,
okay. Yeah, that's been a minute. Yeah.
And she gave me some constructive criticism. She basically feels like our intro isn't like how we are once the mic is on. She feels like it's a little too polished. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So, thank you, Nina. We always love comments and feedback. And so Ashley and I will definitely discuss that later. But she was so wonderful. She was telling anyone in earshot about the podcast. And if I had the capabilities of turning red, I was probably tomato red. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you're happy, you get flushed,
Yeah.
I loved it.
So kind of her. Really appreciate it.
So kind. So
appreciate you. Yay for family time. I am not handling. That sounds like I don't like it. I am having some wonderful family time as well with my wonderful mother. She has been hanging with me, going strong. So we've been getting into some things and still have a few more days to go. So I always try my best to find new adventures and activities, but it gets harder and harder for people who have been visiting for years. So I got to step my game up for some of these visits. And I know my mom enjoys her time in Florida, if for no other reason than obviously seeing her favorite child. But I digress.
Odd be, right?
God forbid my brother was listening to this. But welcome, guys, to another episode. It is our usual Thursday quick headlines and hot topics episode. So we will be diving into some of the pop culture, celebrity stuff that's going on. But first, I just wanted to start with an acknowledgement and prayers out to the family of Ralph Yarl. It's not lost on us when these things, as we've said many times, are going on. It's not what we center our show on, but I just feel like this one was definitely worth acknowledging.
Yes.
He is, for those who are unfamiliar, the 16-year-old who was shot in the head and in the chest or the arm. I've heard accounts of both. Accidentally going to the wrong address to pick up his sibling, shot through the glass door of the homeowner. And miraculously, it seems like he's doing very, very well with his recovery. But obviously, there will still be emotional scars. There's still a court case pending with the 84-year-old man who was the one who shot him. So I just wanted to extend prayers and love to that family and to those who are impacted. And I mean, honestly, including us. Like, anytime as a Black person, and hopefully people in general will feel this way if you're a decent human being, but particularly as a Black person in America, these incidents hit so hard and it never gets easier. It just makes me more sad and more anxious about living in this country.
we see and recognize his humanity. Like there's the picture of him playing an instrument in band. Like I knew plenty of 16-year-olds, black boys playing the bass clarinet or clarinet, what have you. You know, it just takes you back to he's someone's child. You're 16, you're a child. So I, it's senseless, Ashley, and absolutely heartbreaking. And based off of the accounts that I've read and heard about, I just it's just one of those things where I'm sure he's like, I don't even know what I did, right? Because it just came out of freaking nowhere.
He did nothing. He did nothing. He did nothing. And to have to hear about the various things that he has going on to try to justify why his life is valuable. His life is valuable just because he's living and breathing.
Exactly.
Devastating. So definitely prayers and love to, like I said, the family, to Ralph, and to everyone who's impacted. Take some time for yourself if you need it. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's go ahead and get into our quick headlines and hot topics for the day. It's not necessarily going to be sunshine and rainbows today. There are some additional hard things to kind of talk about that are
Mm-hmm.
going on. And the next one is no exception, which we talked about this a couple of weeks ago and we mentioned giving updates. So there have been some updates that have come out, and that is about Jonathan Majors. Within the last hour, actually, of our recording, there is a post on the Shade Room citing Variety as a source that multiple alleged abuse victims are now cooperating with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Jonathan is scheduled to appear in court on May 8th. There have been subsequent articles about him being dropped from various campaigns by his representatives from his management team. I have an article up from Vulture that literally the title is Everything Jonathan Majors Has Been Dropped From. His management team reportedly, which is Entertainment 360, and his PR team at the Letty Company. As far as film and television roles, he will no longer star in the film adaptation of the Walter Mosley novel, The Man in My Basement, or be considered for the Otis Redding biopic, Otis and Zelma. As far as deals that he had in the works, we already know about the U.S. Army postponing a campaign, but also the MLB's Texas Rangers have removed Jonathan from their 2023 ad campaign that was set to debut this week. Additionally, Valentino and Jonathan Majors have mutually agreed that he will no longer attend this year's Met Gala. Apparently, he's also stepping down from the Gotham Film and Media Institute board and its Sidney Poitier initiative in terms of nonprofits and other endeavors. These pieces of information have been slow to come out. And also, to your point, I think, Delora, you mentioned before we actually started recording, without a whole lot of context or information. So what are your thoughts as we're receiving more news about the fallout career-wise for him? And also, what are you thinking that we will see when he actually does go to court on the 8th?
It's over. I think all the momentum, he had so much momentum, Ashley. I mean, we were singing his praises because we were excited for his talent. But if any of these allegations are true, and at this point, they don't have to be true because the silence from the initial arrest and the domino effect of him losing all of these endorsement deals and projects, he's at a deficit. And like we said in our last conversation about this too, those those text messages did not help him. So I don't know why his legal counsel decided to share those. But yeah, it's not looking too good. And there's also rumors that he's been dropped by his representation. PR.
I mentioned that.
Yeah. And when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't look great. If Olivia Pope couldn't swing
Spin
it,
this.
rightfully so, right? If these allegations are true, it's rough.
The biggest conversation career-wise for him that people have still been speculating about is the whole Marvel situation and whether they'll recast him. I even saw an article where they were saying they would be looking to recast him with what's the actor's name from Snowfall? Damson, with a Damson Idris type if they were to recast, but apparently there have been zero conversations about Marvel recasting him at this time, right? But to your point, and I just want to clarify in case I didn't say it in our first conversation, I am always on the side of victims of abuse and sexual assault and all of these various things. And the conversations about his career don't negate that. I think what I'm expecting now from this court case, given this additional information about them kind of finding other abuse victims and them coming forward, is that there's going to be some shocking revelations.
I'm sure.
That we start to see, because everybody has been so silent. And I think it's going to be a mounting situation, similar to some of the other cases we've seen of people where it's been like one chip fell and then all these other people came out of the woodwork. That's what it's starting to feel like to me.
I always am reminded of when Tiger Woods hit that tree, all his mistresses fell out. I'm like, that's why his wife was chasing him after with the golf club.
Yeah, but I mean, I even just watched the last installment of, Surviving R. Kelly and that situation and all of the victims of that. And over the years, how more and more people obviously have felt more comfortable coming out and discussing it due to the support and the acknowledgement of the wrongdoing of this individual, right? Especially once some of these people, men in particular in Hollywood, reach these points of power and control, then you are more fearful of the repercussions of coming out and speaking your truth. So
there's a lot of people behind. Like once you get that level of momentum, like that he had, A-list celebrity, you're a machine and you're supporting a lot of people.
Yep.
And so, that's how, unfortunately, foul behavior gets brushed under the rug.
And you notice too, in this case, you haven't seen support from celebrity friends, from the industry people that he was close to, any of that. Because I think,
but was he close to any of them?
I mean, at least one would think like a Michael B. Jordan, some of those folks who he's been in pivotal roles with and who has said that this is a friendship, right? But I think because there's been so little information, at least publicly, I'm not sure how much information those folks have either, besides like, well, this is my friend and I thought he was different than what it appears to be. So
are they friends or coworkers at this point?
At this point, I'm sure they're like, that was just my coworker.
Yeah. No, I
can't vouch for that person.
I agree. No one has said anything on his behalf. Journey, Michael B.
Right, Journey from
no one. Lovecraft.
Yeah, from your show. Yeah. So it's not looking good is really the latest update. And if all of this is true, then I hope justice is absolutely served for all the victims in this case. So
he talked about having a scrappy past, and I wonder how he managed to speak so freely on that with no one saying anything about it, like in terms of the relationships he's had in the past.
Well, I think people have. I think some of that stuff just hasn't been taken very seriously, probably because it wasn't loud enough and it wasn't big enough compared to the momentum, again, that he's been having and that we've been seeing. There's probably been people who have tried to silence it, pay people off. Who knows what would have possibly been going on behind the scenes in a scenario like that. So,
and, in terms of Marvel, it's not going to be the first time they recast a superhero or a character. I'm thinking about Terrence Howard being substituted in for Don Cheadle.
Yep.
They didn't care about whether or not they looked alike or anything, but the role has been recast and Don Cheadle has had a job since 2010. No, I don't know the exact date, but yeah.
it would definitely be not a major thing for them, I'm sure. So we'll provide any additional updates as this moves on, guys, especially following, like I said, more information and court case information that's released. So let's move on to our next quick headline, and that is Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx remains hospitalized in Georgia nearly a week after his daughter revealed that he had experienced a medical complication. His daughter had shared on Instagram that her father had experienced a health-related incident, but did not specify what had occurred. She added that due to quick action and great care, her father is on his way to recovery. It was reported last week that he was hospitalized and undergoing medical tests. When I first saw this, I thought it was just like, oh, it was just a, health scare. He'll be fine. He'll bounce back quickly. Now that he's been in the hospital for a longer period of time, once I started seeing all the various celebrity posts wishing him well, hoping for the best, and then subsequently seeing them using doubles, like body doubles for him to kind of finish out filming, I was like,
Yeah.
how serious is this really?
It's actually quite terrifying, in my personal opinion, to see the type of tributes he's been getting online, because it makes you wonder, like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? People are speculating and saying that it could have been a stroke, but whatever this medical complication was, I just hope he's okay. And like I said, all of our faves talk about support compared to the first topic of conversation we had today. He has had everyone
Mm-hmm.
pouring out love. I think some of my favorite tributes came from Garcelle, as well as B. Scott. B. Scott talked about, making that transition from a YouTuber to, much more. And he said Jamie Foxx was one of the first people that shouted B. Scott out. And so, yeah, praying for a quick and healthy recovery with quality of life, because, your health is so important.
Yeah, and Jimmy Fox has always been so private. I think that's another reason why it shocked me, because I wouldn't have even known he had medical issues, right? I realized I don't know much about Jamie
But he
Foxx's.
might not have.
He might not have, but he also could have, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
he's not someone that I ever really hear or see much about his personal life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be certain people like a Nick Cannon, for instance, he has lupus, Tony
Right.
Braxton, other folks who, at least as far as I know, have been more open, even if they did. Like, Jamie Foxx doesn't
Mm-hmm.
talk about his romantic life besides having his daughter on shows and producing with him
Right.
now. I don't feel like we just wouldn't know much about him. And that's totally his right to his own privacy.
Yes.
I'm just saying, in that
Mm-hmm.
case, I think that's why it got to me even more, because it was like, this just felt like it was so out of left field. He's still young, healthy seeming. Like, what happened? I need
And
more.
because of how private he's been, it's a big deal that now is being brought to our attention, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this must have been significant enough for someone to want to say something.
And Jamie Foxx is, in my opinion, arguably one of the most talented people in Hollywood. Like,
Period.
the skills, the
It's more
range.
than a triple threat.
Yeah.
It's like yes, singing, yes, comedy, yes, acting, songwriting, piano
Piano.
playing.
He was a star athlete. I mean, God gave him the full brush. Like, seriously.
Seriously.
So just wanted to give him some flowers and just say, wishing him a very speedy recovery. And he's definitely in our thoughts and prayers, as well as his family.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Delora, let's move on to our next quick headline. Again, it's not a sunshine and rainbows episode today, because we have to talk about these David Choe sexual assault comments that he
Mm-hmm.
made, and that have once again resurfaced with the success of our last recap
Yep.
beef. Um, I was not aware of these comments prior to selecting that show, prior to
No.
doing that recap. And when I saw the news, which came out, I think at the tail end of last week, I seriously considered whether or not I should still post that show. Like, it was already recorded. So I was like, okay, well, the project was a great project, but this was deeply disturbing to me. So, guys, David Choe, who is one of the stars of Beef, he was played the role of Isaac. Back in 2014, he had a podcast called DVD ASA. On this podcast, he claims that he had a sexual encounter with a massage therapist who did not give her consent. Apparently, the first wave of backlash about this came a month after he made the comments. Then in 2017, activists spoke out against him when he gained prime real estate at the Houston Bowery Wall. And now again, resurfacing due to his star turn in Beef. This is all according to an article from the Los Angeles Times. So David Choe has been a popular Korean American artist. Again, these allegations have been, I guess, circled around, but now he's using copyright claims in order to get the clips of it removed from social media, from Twitter, from everywhere that these are now resurfacing. He has previously said that the comments that he made were not true. He said, I never thought I'd wake up one late afternoon and hear myself called a rapist. It sucks, especially because I'm not one. I'm not a rapist. I hate rapists. We create stories and tell tales. It's not a news show. It's not a representation of my reality. It's not the place to come for reliable information about me or my life. It's my version of reality. It's art that sometimes offends people. I'm sorry if anyone believed that the stories were fact. They were not. I'm just curious as to why this would have ever been something that he would have wanted to make up, even if I actually believed he made it up, which I personally do not. And secondarily, how is this art? To claim that you forced a massage therapist to first touch your genitals without her permission and then supposedly forced her to perform oral sex and then mention that you were a successful rapist? Where's the art in that?
People like to push boundaries or something. I don't know. I think it's gross and it's something that shouldn't be played with. But I feel like, as you mentioned, he's an artist. I mentioned that during the podcast, all the opening art pieces and Beef he created. It just seems like he wants to be a provocateur, right? And the chickens are coming home to roost. Like, you got to be mindful what you say. Words matter. His behavior was abhorrent, and people are calling him out on his shit. And it happens even at the height of your success in his case, but it'll definitely hinder any other projects that he's able to get in the future because people aren't going to forget that.
Absolutely. I was hearing it discussed on Higher Learning, still one of my favorite pods. And Rachel was very upset that neither Ali or Steven or Netflix or the creator have spoken out since this information was revealed. How do you feel about that?
It's a tricky one, right? Similar to the Jonathan Majors allegations. They're coworkers. And who's to say that they didn't know? I imagine when they vetted him, this didn't come up. Is it their responsibility to say something? I'm on the fence on this one because at the same time, it's like that conversation of who are you willing to cancel and why? And I feel like for the people in the industry, we're in a new space where it's like, do you say something and then get the blowback from that, good or bad? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth the risk? I think that's something everyone is still trying to determine. And I think it's damn if you do, damn if you don't.
It's interesting because allegedly Steven and Ali are his friends and they are the reason why he was brought on this project. So whether or not they knew, couldn't tell you 100%, but it is an interesting thought as to whether or not it is the responsibility of those on the cast, creators, Netflix, all of that to speak on this, because in many situations we have had the expectation that people should speak up and stand against things that are particularly violent or criminal or any of that, which again, if what he said was true, absolutely is the case. Obviously these individuals have to decide for themselves what they feel they should put their, comments out about. But I am aware, the same as other people have pointed out, that it's interesting that this assault supposedly happened with a Black woman, and that is this another case of Black women not being considered to be as protected, that it would be less of a big deal because of who it was that he assaulted. So that's not lost on me whatsoever. I agree that it's tricky, but I think that people, celebrities, everybody has to decide what their line is, what the things are that they're going to stand up and be 10 toes down about. If one of my coworkers told a tale of sexually assaulting somebody, raping somebody, that's not necessarily a gray issue for me personally.
I feel like it's one of those things where unless charges have been placed, judge, jury, and all that, maybe people will feel more comfortable having a say, like having it go through the due process. But
there is even nuance to that, right? Because you don't necessarily have to come out and indict him. You can come out and say, if what he said was true, obviously that is abhorrent.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it from their perspective is like, do I want to step in this shit or not?
And again, I'm not taking anything away from Allie and Steven having the right to decide what they feel they should or should not speak about. People are going to feel some type of way, to your point, if they do. People are damn sure feel some type of way that they're not. So they can let those chips fall. But I'll tell you, I will not be supporting any projects that he's working on moving forward.
I feel comfortable with that. Absolutely.
All right, Delora, let's move on to our final quick headline. And that is, speaking of Ali Wong, not the best segue to talk about her dating life, but here we are. In shocking news, at least to me, apparently Ali Wong is dating Bill Hader. Again, that was the thing too. Again, allegedly they had started dating previously in the fall of last year and then stopped and now are back on. This comes after she is filed for divorce from her husband of 8 years, who she apparently still has a great friendship and relationship with. And
he sells t-shirts at her
he's going to be her tour manager. He's going to be her. I mean, she said they're best friends, very unconventional.
Yep.
And we just spoke about Bill Hader as well and his apparently big dick energy that Rachel Bilson and others miss. But it makes sense in one regard because they're both in the comedy community and that understanding and that
small world.
Yeah. And apparently their friends like protected their relationship from getting public and all of that to protect her during, any backlash, I guess, from her and her divorce proceedings and all of that. But, the first person I thought of when I heard this was her mother. Because I remember her telling the tale of how her mother was not, she was devastated about her getting a divorce in the first place. She was like, can you not just wait till I die?
Oh my.
That was her mother's reaction. So I'm like, so I wonder what your mother thought when you announced that you're dating this new guy. So what did you think about this coupling?
I thought, I can see it. She likes tall men, apparently. They're funny. I wonder how their dinners are.
I feel like their banter is going to be very similar to the parents of the recap we're going to be doing for next week.
1,000%. 1,000%. I feel like the only thing that might be hindering in their relationship is their work schedule. I mean, they apparently are happy, healthy, consenting adults.
Apparently, she is getting that man to take a vacation because he brought up the fact that his girlfriend said he has not been on a vacation in 10 years, so he thinks he needs to go. So I guess he's making an effort on the work schedule thing. But does that mean he's going to join her on tour? Is it going to be a whole family affair with the ex-husband and the children?
They're dating. They're not engaged. Like, who think,
Some
let's
people
have
jump
fun.
in.
Keep it light.
Some people jump in 2 feet. He's 44, she's 40. They like,
That's
listen,
true.
we know what it is. He got kids as well. So,
Three of them.
you know, it is what it is. We grown.
Lucky for him. Allie is beautiful and she has been killing this promo tour. Like, she's so cute. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way, but she's a beautiful woman.
She is. She definitely is. We'll see what happens with these. I saw somebody wrote a comment, something saying like, oh, he not loves them and leaves them necessarily, but I think similar to like a common comment or something where it's like
Oh
just
Lord, passed around.
non-committal, has these great women and then drops some type of comment or energy. So they were like, he stay away from Allie. He's not one that, keeps them type thing. So we'll see. It's life. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to our two hot topics of the day, Delora. Our first one. Let me start off with saying, y'all, I have not watched this show since season 1, so I am so out of the loop, but these headlines are everywhere.
I haven't watched it since season 2 because I realized I'm like, oh, we're on season 4.
On season freaking 4, and the more popular than ever, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
So, guys, in case you're not aware, Love is Blind is the show we're talking about on Netflix. They were supposed to have a live reunion special on Sunday, but that ish went left. Apparently, due to a surge of 6.5 million viewers trying to tune in and watch this. So, for some people, they were able to catch the live stream an hour late. For others, it was an entire day later. They could not stream it till Monday. So, the internet, internet was interneting. People were in shambles talking about, oh, this is why we should continue to have broadcast television because y'all on the streaming side haven't figured it out yet. Netflix said, oh, we thought we had the bugs figured out since we did the whole Chris Rock live special last month, but apparently not. We still got more to figure out and fix. But the reunion, I mean, for people who enjoy this show, I've just heard that it just was not very entertaining in general. So one of the biggest criticisms was the hosts, was Nick and Vanessa.
Number 1.
Apparently Nick was mute. Apparently Vanessa was playing favorites and was talking over people and had terrible segues. There's even a petition that has thousands upon thousands of people signing it to replace them. Biggest candidates, Cameron and Lauren from season 1, Avi.
1,000%. Like, why haven't Netflix hired them? It makes no sense to me.
Did you check out any of this reunion due to all the hoopla? Does this pull you back into the world of Love is Blind? What do you think about all of this media attention?
Again, season 4? Really? Internal monologue. My best friend called me and she was like, have you watched it? I'm like, girl, I haven't watched this season. And she was like, Vanessa needs to go. I'm like, really? And based off of my conversation and what I've been seeing on Twitter, and then especially Black Twitter, when I tell you all the memes of like in tweets telling Netflix to just blow on the cartridge or turn it on or turn it off.
Shout out to those who know about blowing on the cartridge. Okay, Nintendo. Okay, Sega.
Oh my gosh. But Vanessa has always been a Tyra for me. And that is self-absorbed, self-centered. And
but don't you find that fascinating given this is what she's always done for a living?
And my best friend mentioned she doesn't know how to listen. And Francesca Ramsey, I posted her video on Instagram into our stories. she said the same thing, and she's a TV producer and writer, and she she was like, when it comes to hosting, you have to be able to listen and read the room and not be prepared with premeditated whatever. You know what I mean? And I think Vanessa thinks she's funny and she's not. And Nick is there for the ride and the check. He's always just been there. And this is not bashing Nick and Vanessa, but they're not America's favorite couple, but they always come as a package. And I don't know why.
Well, I don't know what else Nick would do for a career now, unless they're going to do a 98 Degrees reunion tour and go out with the Backstreet Boys and the 4 members of NSYNC. And I don't even like throwing Boyz II Men in there, because Boyz II Men is, in my opinion, deserves better. Yes. And New Kids on the Block. Because otherwise, like, this is what Nick has been doing for a long time now.
He's been hosting for a long time, and I've watched shows where he's hosted, but I don't know what it is for this show in particular that just seems, it's been off since day one. Like, season 1, no one in the world knows what the show is about. But Nick and Vanessa are supposed to help us guide us through this journey, and they were barely on the show. They only showed up for like literally less than a handful of moments before the reunion.
Well, sounds like perhaps that was for the best, if this is the caliber of entertainment people are saying. And part of me always feel some type of way when it's like a pal one, though, if I'm honest. Like, I don't like seeing anyone get this heavily criticized about something that is not a freaking crime. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. It makes me almost feel like it's cyberbullying a little bit once it reaches a fever pitch.
I hear that.
Like, y'all can calm down just a little bit. No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? Like, once you see like a swarm of people kind of within the same voice calling for somebody to do this or that, I'm like, okay, let's calm it down just a little bit. Like, I get y'all don't think they're the best. Trust me, they're not the worst. I get that they're not the best, though. And for me, Nick is from Cincinnati, Ohio, so I always do feel a little bit like Nick is in my heart just a little bit from the Ohio connection.
My favorite shows he's ever hosted and produced was like this a cappella reality game show where a cappella teams compete against each other. That's how Pentatonic became a thing.
Oh, really?
They won.
Wow.
forever and ever ago.
And see, that makes sense with him coming from the music world. Like, that would have made total sense at the time.
You know, I have watched Nick and Vanessa do many things. Okay. And, you know, this is just,
do you think people always want to still put them together because him and Jessica were so out in the public eye as a couple? So now with him marrying Vanessa, they were hoping for that same like chemistry.
I don't know. But if you think about it, Nick and Jessica, they were married for what, a year or two? Like,
was it only a year? It felt longer because of the show. It
did feel longer, but when I tell you.
But they were together for a long time before they got married as well. So however many years that was.
Yeah, I don't know what the motivation is, but I am on board for Cameron and Lauren to host. Lauren does have experience.
The Hamiltons.
And I think the show could benefit from a couple who's actually gone through the process.
Yes. And that's what people were saying. Again, I would love to see Lauren and Cameron pick up the mantle if people feel like it's time for the Lachey's to retire. I love me some Lauren.
Would definitely be the front and center, though, for sure.
I love me some Lauren. But that's what she did.
Shout out to Detroit.
That was what she was doing before she even got on Love is Blind, right? She was a content creator and all this. So it was a springboard for her to have an even bigger platform, which congratulations, sis. You've been successful at doing that for sure. But I would love to see it. So again, no, I don't like when people pile on, but maybe y'all time has come and gone. Do they produce? Are they producers on this show, by the way?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they are, because I feel like since they've been doing it for so many years, like for other shows, like I can see them like, yeah, we got skin in the game.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Again, not looking very good for them based on these comments. So let's move on to our last hot topic, Delora. This is one that you actually suggested and is really heating up in terms of potential, and that is the Hollywood writer strike that is really, really, really pending right now. Last writer strike happened for 100 days back in 2007 and 2008. The Writers Guild of
And it changed the
America.
landscape of TV forever. It was the longest 100 days ever.
The Writers Guild of America, the union representing Hollywood writers, went on strike, and the entertainment industry came to a halt. This is a USA Today article that I am referencing. The biggest thing they want is pay, right? Because they're like, the industry has not kept up pay wise with the changes that have gone on with streaming. They cite the fact that there are less episodes that are recorded now and they're paid by episode. They still don't feel like benefits wise that they're receiving what they need to. All of that is on the table. And obviously what the studios are saying is that they're trying to look at the long-term health and the stability of the industry as their top priority, because things have been shaky. Streaming services, entertainment conglomerates, and all this are always looking at their bottom line. What this comes down to is, in my opinion, giving these folks a living wage. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
And so I obviously am on the side of the writers in that case, because these huge inflated companies, I understand that you have to have enough money to still operate, but let's not be naive and say that these studios, the streaming giants, all these folks do not have the money they need to pay these people fairly for the work that they do. I'm thinking about this. Can't remember the name of the company, but it was the CEO was just busted on a call with employees. Girl, telling people, don't worry about your bonuses. Don't be crying and all this. Focus on the money that we need to do this or that. And she had just given herself $1.2 million bonus the year prior.
Gaslighting at its finest.
I mean, it's wild, right? So what do you think about the possibility of this writer's strike? How sad is it going to be if great productions have to be halted, even though it's obviously for a good cause?
So when it comes to this writer's strike, I'm really nervous. As you mentioned, 100 days cost Los Angeles economy an estimated $2.1 billion. I am looking at the New York Times. And all I can think is, we didn't get the final season of Girlfriends, and we got the Kardashians because of that. The way we know reality TV we know today is because of that writer's strike back in, late 2007, early 2008. I'm concerned because the level of quality content has been difficult post-pandemic. So like when we started the podcast in 2020, it was booming and we couldn't keep up with all the good projects and things like that. And here we are 2 years in, and sometimes it's difficult to find really good art. And that's because a lot of things changed because of the pandemic. And so with a potential strike on the horizon, I'm just really concerned about, TV and movie landscape in the short, I shouldn't say the short term, but like in the near term, because we didn't start getting the effects of the pandemic, I think, until maybe 2022, where it's like, oh yeah, a lot of things slowed down because guess what? People were writing quarantine at home and things weren't being made. And an interesting conversation came up. I love this podcast. It's called Vibe Check on Stitcher. It has three hosts, and they're very well versed in Hollywood and the news. And in their conversation in their recent podcast, they talked about how they're concerned that AI is going to become a factor when it comes to
Jesus.
writing scripts. And especially for shows that are very formulaic, utilizing AI to produce different, scenarios and maybe having a few humans massage it or what have you. But can you imagine
I
if
cannot.
AI took over writing for TVs and movies?
I cannot. I don't want to think about that. I
You
know
know,
it's
they said
already making an impact in music
it's
and
making an
pissing off
impact
musicians.
in journalism. Apparently, there's been some articles generated by AI and published by like BuzzFeed. They gave an example.
It's too much for me. This technology has always been something that I've struggled with on a personal level because I'm not someone who is a quick embracer of new technology.
Mm-hmm.
But AI is a whole new ball game and new level. You have a
Yeah.
lot of people who are nervous about what AI is going to do for us and whether or not we really know what we're getting ourselves into. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're so destructive. So many of the things we create are so destructive to society. Who knows what this is going to do? I even just got caught up in a whole rabbit hole about Stephen Hawking yesterday. Don't ask me why. I was watching something. They referenced Stephen Hawking, and I just went down this whole rabbit trail. But even Stephen Hawking talked about this. And I'm like, listen, y'all just let me know when I can wake up out of the matrix because I'm tired. But Delora, I'm sure that Hollywood and the powers that be will find any maneuvers that they can to cut costs, continue to cut costs. I even saw an article saying Netflix is actually probably be one of the least impacted by this because they've cut back so much on producing new content and all this and that for the year. But it's worrisome as a consumer. And if you're someone who works in the industry, worrisome because all of this
Yes.
impacts production, all of this impacts all other aspects of the business. I even saw in this particular article from USA Today that even for those projects that may already have scripts written and all of that, it's going to be up to the actors. Some of the actors may decide if they go on strike that they still will not actually do the projects that are already done to support the writers, right? So you just
Yes.
never know. I hope they're able to come to some agreement, but I hope that the writers are able to get what it is that they need. Because to their point, they literally say in here that we are asking to restore writer pay and conditions to reflect our value to this industry. The survival of our profession is at stake.
Yep.
So, for the love of entertainment, for the love of TVs and movies, can y'all pay these people a
Please.
fair, decent wage, particularly all the money that y'all have available to y'all in the entertainment industry? Stop playing with these people.
And yes, we have movie stars, they're the face of projects, but those projects mean nothing if the writing isn't good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's many projects that die on the vine, even with great casting.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm hoping that they can come to some type of agreement and that the writers get what they are owed. So, more to come on this in the future, I'm sure, Delora. But speaking of that, those parents and that chemistry, what are we recapping for the people next week?
One of my favorite movies, and yours too. It is a throwback. I am talking about 2010 Easy A, starring Emma Stone.
Very, very, very nice. Was debating, I was like, do I actually need to rewatch this movie for the sake of the recap? I've seen it so many times. I even have it on DVD, but I still rewatched it again.
And guess what? I cackled throughout that entire movie. Like I have not watched it a million times when it came on TNT, you know?
Yeah. I laugh at the same spots too in my favorite movies. It's ridiculous, but looking forward to it, Delora. And guys, I know this episode was a little bit heavier. Hopefully, you still got some laughs and some entertainment out of it. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So, in the meantime, be blessed.